We have studied Signify, it's former Philips Lighting. It's a major LED manufacturer that sells products and solutions related to lighting and luminaires. And our study was divided in 3 parts. The first is to study how Signify had created use cases for lighting in office environments, with focus on one specific use case and how it was protected with IP. Our second task is to develop and describe a new use case, coming up with something that is not mentioned by Signify, and then find out how this can be protected with IP. And finally, we should identify white spots in the patent landscape for the new use case we have come up with. And Signify has several use cases, in total 6 groups which they promote and sell. And these are protected by patents. And if we go to next slide, we can see several of them. We have scene management, which use mobile devices as sensors for obtaining input when setting a lighting. We have energy optimization that use a method that relies on advanced algorithms for saving energy. We have lighting management, which use existing communication networks. In this example, I think it was Wi-Fi in particular, for setting up and lighting units and then saving time by using existing resources. We have space management. It's a use case when you take occupancy status into account when setting up the lights. Where are people located at what point in time and where in the office? If we go to next slide, we see more use cases. We have indoor navigation, bioadaptive lighting, environmental monitoring, and lighting asset management. And these are all used in various ways to enhance how users experience light in an office environment. And we choose to study lighting asset management in more detail. And with that, we go to the next slide. And so we studied the use case lighting asset management. And first starting, what is the customer benefit? And one big item is minimizing downtime of lighting. And of course, the light source must not be replaced too late. That's an important item. And on the other hand, light sources should not be replaced too soon. That costs money, it's not good for the environment. And another important item for every office activity is to use lighting in a good way to maintain productivity and comfort for people who work there. And there was a number of features that were identified here for this use case. The status and the issues, they must be anticipated before they occur. If a lighting breaks, we need to know before it happens. When it happens, it's too late. And an office has a lot of lighting units. We need to, one feature is to locate where the lighting is positioned within the building, and there can be many. And also initiated remotely, replacement and management. And this is protected by technical items, and the patent has a scope. And we see that it is directed to having a lighting unit that can emit a light that carries data within the light, and that indicates the status of the lighting source. For example, if the light can see I'm approaching my end of life status. Beyond this point, I will not be able to illuminate as expected, as the user expects. Then it can create a visual signal for users. We see the picture there, right, left. In the picture, we have a maintenance guy. He starts a process and defect lighting start to blink, for example. So that's the technical aspect of providing this customer benefit of making sure that downtime is reduced and that productivity and comfort can be maintained. And with that, I think we go over to a new use case that was not identified by Signify, which we came up with.
So, new case. Here we show an example of the use of growth of plants in office spaces. And this is an example from an office space in Japan, where plants contribute to increase the social welfare of the people staying there, and also have dedicated spaces for growing vegetables. And the necessary light is in this case provided by Philips Green Power LED lighting system, which is specially configured for indoor farming. And I think if I remember, Signify is a spin-off of Philips Lighting. And I think we have enough time for a short video. It's a video here, right, Urvashi? Just to illustrate the idea. Yeah, so you see they have both plants outside the external facade and inside, and creating quite in nature environment. That and here you see the growth of vegetables, which I will come back to the next slide. I think we can just go to the next slide. Yeah, I think it's okay. Could you just go to the next slide, Urvashi? I think you jumped over a slide now. Yeah, there you go. So we did some Googling, and it's no doubt that plants increases the welfare and the happiness, and also as well, at least as important, it increases the productivity of the employees by having plants within office spaces. So it's very important. And our idea is that, which we have not seen up to now, that Signify has been doing, is to combine natural light and artificial light in an intelligent way. And since artificial light can never fully compensate the effect of natural light, and that is to contribute to this productivity and the welfare. And you can go to the next slide. So the idea is very simple. We have this sensor technology, and in most office spaces they have awnings where they can regulate the incoming natural light. And these awnings, they have motors and which can be connected to sensor technology and data communication. And by regulating the awnings and also the strength of the artificial lights, you can take into account external factors such as day, night, summer, winter, etc., etc. Next slide. So you can, of course, include additional options like involving the temperature, taking care of ideal conditions for both plants and for humans. Next slide. You also have, you can have highly user-specific regulations allowing welfare for individual office spaces and also most effective optimum growth of certain plant types. So you have a lot of opportunities here to provide services for customers. Yeah, so now we can go to the next slide. So this has been shown in an earlier group. I think it was group 2. Yeah. Concerning customer benefit offering, we think it's important. I think an important contribution would be this green reputation that Signify will gain with such a use case, and thereby establishing higher goodwill in the market. People will consider Signify as an important contributor to the green technology. So as I showed you, with the different possibilities, potentials of combining artificial and natural light in different settings, is a lot of opportunities to increase the digital ecosystem. Okay, so and when it comes to the effect, Urivashi, you will say something more about that.
Yes, so how this case can be protected by IP. We'll look at the description first. How could this indoor farming concept be implemented? So it uses LED and sensors. It is used for growing plants in small offices, or it could be even in other buildings, to provide a comfortable microclimate throughout the building, and it would help purify air. Plants reduce stress and anxiety and make employees calmer and happier. Urban indoor farming can further be developed from farm to table, as we saw that in the video, the concept of farm to table, where the employees are growing their own food, and this is served then in the cafeteria or canteen. So this also helps in building a team or community spirit. And how could this be realized? Signify already has an established technology and infrastructure for combining its hardware, software, and services, which could then be implemented to realize this business model. So from the resource perspective, we see that indoor farming, this is vertical farming or hydroponics, would utilize less energy, water, space. There's no need for a separate piece of land. It is weatherproof, so the climate can be controlled by sensors and by different lighting systems, where the growth stage, as per the growth stage of the plant, the lights and sensors would react accordingly. So it could then advise customers on diversification of plants, what type of plants would suit there, on recycling of nutrients. And then, as I said, it already has an established infrastructure of hardware, software, services, which could then be applied here. From the market perspective, how it can communicate this unique selling proposition to customers, it can already communicate to the existing customers, and then build a new customer base with property managers, farmers, and horticulture experts. It already has an established licensing network of about 1,000 partners, licensed partners. Again, it could now establish a new customer base, new licensing partnerships, and it could also look at cross-licensing, where it could utilize other business players' IP for its own use, and then give in return its license, so like interoperability and cross-licensing. How it can then design its market position. It already has an established brand. Now it needs to further enhance this brand in the area of indoor farming. And it could then register certain trademarks and certain aesthetic aspects of lighting systems as designs. It could then apply for quality and safety standards, comply with these standards like energy management systems 14001, ISO 14001. And because it uses water and light, so there's a safety concern which can be addressed by these standards. It could also look at sustainability certificates, and this would further enhance its market position. How it could exclusify resources. It already has a certain number of horticulture patents. This could be combined with new applications, and then certain trade secrets can be protected, certain proprietary information related to certain processes, other critical information can be exclusified by implementing confidentiality measures, non-disclosure measures as trade secrets. So this is how IP can be appropriated by Signify. With that, I give the floor to Vanessa for the next slide.
Thank you, Avashi. So when we look for so-called white spots, we're trying to identify areas where patent activity is small, so there's not a lot going on, but also where there is significant potential for returns on innovation. And patent analytics tools can help us in this process, where the first step is to identify the presence of patent rights. And in our case, we would try to identify patents in the LED and indoor farming domain by using the relevant field classifications, which are, for example, IPC or CPC codes. To identify these fields, this can be done via a keyword search. For example, we have an example on the picture on the right. It's a little bit small, but basically we searched in the Octomine patent analytics tool for indoor farming, and the results show they list the most actively patenting firms on the vertical axis and the relevant field classifications on the x-axis. And the darker areas are where the companies in those specific fields are patenting the most. And this can be used to then see, as we say, the white spots where the colors are lighter or hardly any patenting is going on. Then it's also important to identify the value, so the valuable innovation areas. And to do this, one can look at citation trends in patents. So if a patent receives a lot of citations, then it's likely to have a larger industrial applicability, meaning you can make more money. And combining high value areas with low patenting activity may point to new areas of potential. Yeah, and some tools, some patent analytics tools even estimate the value of patents, or predictive analytics algorithms that forecast future trends in technology development. By looking at the geographical coverage of patents, one can identify so-called geographical white spots that may have been overlooked, or where you have the flexibility or maybe freedom to operate to commercialize or practice and utilize some of those inventions. And finally, one can also start their identification of white spots from a different angle. So namely, by first identifying your main competitors and then carefully assessing their patent portfolios to see which areas they are investing in, patenting in, and developing in, and thereby identifying possible white spots. On the bottom right, I just listed out of interest or for reference some patent tools and databases that are common and available. Some of them are paid for, some of them are for free, but I won't go into the detail of those. And this brings us to the end of the presentation. So thank you for your attention.